Okay, let's move on to conduct of business. We'll be at item B. Adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to submit applications to the San Mateo County Transportation Measure A Pedestrian and Bicycle Grant Program 4. 3 items here. El Camino Real, Angus Avenue intersection improvements, and pedestrian circulation improvements, alternative analysis, as well as alternatives feasibility assessments of Bayshore Circle medium improvements.
Honorable Vice Mayor, Council members, in December, the Transportation Authority for San Mateo County issued a call for project for pedestrian and bicycle improvement projects. This call for project would use the pedestrian and bicycle grant program will use Measure A funds and is assigned a total of $5.4 million at this time for this grant program. The City Council set expectation and directed staff to seek outside funding opportunity whenever is feasible to further the policy objectives of the city and to achieve policy priorities and objectives. Staff evaluated these known policy objectives and priorities stated by the City Council against the eligibility for this grant application and is proposing 3 projects which met this requirement. The requirement of eligibility for the grant application and also met the priority of the City Council. Those 3 projects are the pedestrian circulation improvement between the crossing and Temporan, the connectivity improvement at Bayshore Circle, and the Angus intersection improvement. The pedestrian connectivity improvement between the crossing and Temporan was included as an objective in the special plan developed for the U.S. Navy site, and also was included in the redevelopment implementation plan and also in our capital improvement plan. In our capital improvement plan, this project is not funded, and that's the reason for our recommendation to apply for this outside funding opportunity. Is very limited knowledge at this time about this project. Wasn't any design work done. The vision and the objective stated in those policy documents is to improve the pedestrian connectivity between the crossings and also shopping opportunities at Temporan, and also to improve the access and the connectivity with the BOT station, the transit hub at that location. Now, with the development of the hotel site, this improvement will be even more timely and relevant. The City Council, URA, also set expectation to improve Bayshore Circle, and this would be on other opportunity to analyze if could be improved the connectivity between this east side residential and commercial neighborhood with the end of the regional trail which ends close to that location. To the north, also with the Barth Transit hub across from Huntington, and also the transit corridor itself to the south. Again, how is in the case of the other project, this funding request is recommended for feasibility analysis, just to analyze what type of connectivity improvement could be implemented at this location. And also the funding would support any environmental assessment of the site if, for those alternative uses and connectivity type of project. The third project is the intersection improvement at Angus. In our general plan and also in our transit corridor plan is emphasized the improvement of the pedestrian experience, including through the El Camino corridor. Also in the Grand Boulevard initiative, the whole concept is based on enhancing the pedestrian and bicycle experience throughout the whole corridor. In addition to those three policy documents, also you supported and the city developed up to 35% design the complete street case study, focusing on corridor improvement between, on El Camino between San Bruno and Sylvan. At the presentation at that time, you requested and staff made the commitment that with any grant opportunity, if not for the whole project as a whole, staff will seek outside funding whenever is feasible, even for portion of, to implement portion of that project. The intersection of Angus is a section of that project, and the reason why was chosen this intersection is the high civic interest with the library at that location, and also access and connection to the school close to that intersection, and heavy school traffic at that location also. If these are the staff recommendation at this time. If you support this recommendation, then staff will submit the grant application on 17th of this month. Then is the expectation to have a final decision on the application sometime in April. And then the next time when you would see this item would be brought back for your consideration would be in the second part of this year with consultant support award for those projects which were successful in this application process. I am available for any question.
Thank you, Klara. Ken?
Klara, thank you. As the city's representative on the CCAG Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, I could tell you firsthand that we've done very well with these grants. And I believe the Transit Corridor Plan was actually had a grant from the TA a couple years ago. Most recently in October, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan was funded by TDA Article 3 funding, $100,000. And unfortunately, the Angus project was proposed then also, but the pool of money was a lot smaller. It was $1.4 million. I was just checking my records. So, and we placed ninth out of 15, and only 6 projects were funded. So I believe the Angus project is very important. I think it will get, I can't say because the TA is a different governing board, a selection board than the CCAG BPAC. So I don't know if I'll be able to look at it. So at this point, and I know that the TA is very receptive to studies, and the Belmont Pedestrian Bridge was heavily funded by the TA. The pedestrian bridge that doesn't go over El Camino, goes over 101. So, and that was a major undertaking. So I think the pedestrian bridge to Tan Fran is a good project. I would be cautious about the Bayshore Circle. And all I can say is when we're judging these projects, is that how do they follow the goals and the initiatives of the grant funding? So if we follow the rules and make a good case, then we should do well. $5.4 million sounds like a lot, but depending on the many cities that apply, and there are many cities, and some of them are $1 million. So, and some of them are $500,000. So it doesn't go that far.
Councilmember,
yeah.
Councilmember Ibarra, I did forget to mention that for this grant application, each agency can apply for up to 3 projects, and the dollar limit for each agency is $1 million.
Yeah, and I'd just like to restate, I mean, we are recognized as a municipality that is ahead of the game, and we're aggressive, we plan well, and we have good viable projects, and the committees and the boards that are reviewing our projects, they prove that by funding them. So we're up against bigger cities, and that I compliment staff and wish them well on getting the application together.
Michael?
Thank you. I just had a quick question. I noticed in here that there is a 10% matching funds provision for these grants, and I was just wondering if we are fortunate enough to get these, have we identified that funding source at this point?
Maybe it's not clear in the fiscal impact portion. Is no matching fund requirement for this grant for any of these. It's a weighting criteria, the matching fund, how they will rate those projects and how successful they will be. And that weighting criteria that they is assigned a 10% advantage for those projects who has matching funds included in this application.
I see. And so our proposal will not include any matching funds?
It is, at this time, was not proposed by us, any matching fund to include in our grant application. I must say, like all of the Measure A grant funds does not cover overhead costs. That will be a very, very small dollar amount of overhead costs. They cover staff time, direct cost. They are not covering overhead cost, but that is a very small cost for these projects.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying.
If it's your desire, that is the intent of tonight's presentation. If you are recommending including local match, wasn't our recommendation, but certainly is your decision to make.
City Manager Jackson?
I just wanted to add, in response to Councilmember Ibarra, first of all, your insight is echoed by staff and very much a benefit to the city that you have the participation and the insight about these programs. Bayshore Circle in particular was included by staff, and again, this is a decision that is the city council's to make, and so with your evaluation of the competitive potential of this program, we just simply respectfully submit these items for your consideration, recognizing that the Bayshore Circle project, as you've picked up on, may not be quite as competitive in the grander scheme of things for a couple of reasons. One being that typically grant providers look for projects that are relatively well along in the planning and development process. This project, as it's proposed, is not, although we thought it was a good opportunity to leverage grant funds for an important policy objective, as the director indicated previously in her report. So again, we present it to you primarily in recognition of the city's interests, and this simply as an opportunity. And as you well know, we can make no guarantees about the ultimate
Of course,
success.
no. And if I could respond to that, yes. I see a lot of potential in the Bayshore Circle because, you've got some political ties here. We've got some people, you look at, who's going to be making the decisions. And we have a BART station. We have a regional shopping center close by. We actually have a neighboring city's walking park that is very close to it. So, and we have bicycle routes in the area too. So, by all means, we take a stab at it. As far as to my colleague's question about the matching funds, again, it's an application process, and I know San Bruno has scored well in the past on different types of grant proposals based on a matching fund. If it's a point total, if it's something that they get scored by points, and I've sat next to colleagues that have been scoring for these projects, and a city that is proposing a project that is not investing anything into it is not looked that favorably on. So I think if we have the funding source, if we have the money to insert into the project, I think, and if it fits into the application process, by all means, I think it's something not only on the scoring point, but also the perception of who's judging these projects.
If that were the case and looking to show some, shall we say, investment, as Councilmember Salazar asked, where would those funds come from?
Would be probably staff recommendation to use our own Measure A fund to include in the application as matching fund. And just a recommendation on the table was mentioned, the 10%. Do you think would be a higher chance? And if you desire to include I'm just offering that 10% just to show would be then my recommendation to include at least 10% in our application as matching fund to show our commitment and interest in the project itself. And those Measure A funds, last time, if I remember, is around 1.1 or 1.2 million unassigned Measure A funds available for the city right now. And that would be my recommendation, yes.
Other questions or
Through the
comments?
chair, just wanted to pick Ken's brain. So in terms of what you've seen with other proposals, what sort of percentages are generally proposed by cities that makes them attractive to the approving?
Well, it's hard.
board?
It's hard to say because we have two agencies that are judging this, and we got a good taste of it last year, or I believe the year before, when the TA and CCAG were, TDA and the TA funds were combined. And I think it was a unique case because there wasn't a large pool of one of the funds, and so we combined it. But there was still a division of who was going to judge what and how they were going to judge and how we were going to judge. And we had a scoring sheet, and we've worked on it, and we've tried to perfect it and refine it and be fair. I can't speak for the TA on how they judge. I'd like to think that they do well because we've benefited from their scoring. So all I can say is that, I can help staff in reviewing the grant application and look at how they possibly would be scoring, and give them that assistance. But I I have been there when there's been zero. There have been, zero matching funds, and it's been sort of frowned upon.
So what's the pleasure of the council in regards to the matching funds and, on this item?
Well, I mean, the 10% number I had read erroneously. It's a weighting factor, not an actual contribution amount. So I don't know if the 10% is adequate. Would we want to do more than that? I'm not sure. That's why I wanted to get a better feel for what's considered enough skin in the game to make this an attractive proposal. But without any consideration, and I mean, we have funds available. I don't know if we want to, I don't know how well equipped we are to make a decision on how much should be contributed. So I don't want that to impede any progress on submitting these.
Because you did say they need to be submitted by the 17th, correct?
Correct.
So we're under
Yeah.
time.
I just will say that I think 10%, that would be around 80,000 for the total matching fund for the 3 project would show commitment on the agency's part, and would be funding available from our Measure A funds. And you want to make that decision tonight, then that will be incorporated in the application.
It's a pleasure of council.
I think I'd be willing to support that if Ken feels it's going to help us. Absolutely.
I believe it is. If it is stated within the grant proposal that 10% is what is the ability of agencies, I would guarantee that there's going to be competing agencies that will have that 10% in there. So I believe we should be right there with them. So if that's the case, I'll introduce the resolution and let them make the applications.
We have 3 separate resolutions. I don't know.
have 3 separate resolutions.
You want to take them separately, or can we?
I would like to take them separately.
I'd like to introduce Resolution A for the El Camino and Angus intersection improvements,
And if you could amend the resolution to include the 10% matching fund.
as stated, with 10% matching funds.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
I'd like to introduce Resolution B, submit an application for the Tanfran pedestrian circulation improvements, and include a 10% matching fund.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
And finally, Resolution C, submit an application for a alternative feasibility assessment of Bayshore Circle median improvements with a 10% matching fund.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye. Thank you.